Howdy do. We gonna waited so late. I've been here, there, and everywhere. Just always get this thing done first thing in the morning. After I get good. How many times have I said that? And these eyes of mine and my ears still just as numb. Right here. Crazy. We're going to see what these old eyes will do. Chapter 4 of Agatha Christie's What Mrs. McGullicuddy Saw. And this is part 1 of chapter 4. The name of Lucy Owlsbury had already made itself in certain circles. Lucy Owlsbury Barrow was 32. She had taken a first in mathematics at Oxford, was acknowledged to have a brilliant mind, and was confidently expected to take up a distinguished academic career. But Lucy Owlsbury, in addition to scholarly brilliance, had a core of good, sound common sense. She could not fail to observe that a life of academic distinction was singularly ill rewarded. She had no desire whatever to teach, and she took pleasure in contacts with minds much less brilliant than her own. In short, she had a taste for people, all sorts of people, and not the same people the whole time. She also, quite frankly, liked money. To gain money, one must exploit shortage. Lucy Owlsbury hit at once upon a very serious shortage, the shortage of any kind of skilled domestic labor. To the amazement of her friends and fellow scholars, Lucy Owlsbury entered the field of domestic labor. Her success was immediate and assured. By now, after a lapse of some years, she was known all over the British Isles. It was quite customary for wives to say joyfully to husbands, "It will be all right. I can go with you to the States. I've got Lucy Owlsbury." The point of Lucy Owlsbury was that once she came into a house, all worry, anxiety, and hard work went out of it. Lucy Owlsbury did everything, saw to everything, arranged everything. She was unbelievably competent in every conceivable sphere. She looked after elderly parents, accepted the care of young children, nursed the sick, cooked divinely, got on well with any old crusted servants there might happen to be there. There usually weren't. Was tactful with impossible people, soothed habitual drunkards, was wonderful with dogs. Best of all, she never minded what she did. She scrubbed the kitchen floor, dug in the garden, cleaned up dog messes, and carried coals. One of her roles was never to accept an engagement for any long length of time. A fortnight was her usual period, 2 weeks. A month at most under exceptional circumstances. For that fortnight you had to pay the earth. But during that fortnight your life was heaven. You could relax completely, go abroad, stay at home, do as you pleased, secure that all was going well on the home front in Lucy Owlsbury's capable hands. Naturally, the demand for her services was enormous. She could have booked herself up if she chose for about 3 years ahead. She had been offered enormous sums to go as a permanency. But Lucy had no intention of being a permanency, nor would she book herself far more than 6 months ahead. And within that period, oh Lord, I lost my place. Unknown to her clamoring clients, she always kept certain free periods which enabled her either to take a short luxurious holiday, in parentheses, since she spent nothing otherwise and was handsomely paid and kept, or to accept any position at short notice that happened to take her fancy, either by reason of its character or because she liked the people. Since she was at liberty to pick and choose among the vociferous claimants for her services, she went very largely by personal liking. Mere inches would not buy you the sacrifices of Lucy Islesborough. She could pick and choose, and she did pick and choose. She enjoyed her life very much and found in it a continual source of entertainment. Lucy Islesborough read and reread the letter from Miss Marple. She had made Miss Marple's acquaintance 2 years ago when her services had been retained by Raymond West, the novelist, to go and look after his old aunt who was recovering from pneumonia. Lucy had accepted the job and had gone down to St. Mary Mead. She had liked Miss Marple very much. As for Miss Marple, once she had caught a glimpse out of her bedroom window of Lucy Islesborough, really trenching, that's what it says, really trenching for sweet peas in proper way. No, wait a minute. In the proper way, she had leaned back on her pillows with a sigh of relief, eaten the tempting little meals that Lucy Islesborough brought to her, and listened agreeably. Wait a minute. Brought to her and listened, agreeably surprised to the tales told by her elderly, irascible maidservant of how I taught that Miss Islesborough a crochet pattern. What? That's what it says. A crochet pattern what she'd never heard of. Proper grateful she was, and had surprised her doctor by the rapidity of her convalescence. Miss Marple, gosh, those, had surprised her doctor by the rapidity of her convalescence. Miss Marple wrote asking if Miss Islesborough could undertake a certain task for her, rather an unusual one. Perhaps Miss Islesborough could arrange a meeting at which they could discuss the matter. Lucy Islesborough frowned for a moment or two. As she considered. She was, in reality, fully booked up, but the word unusual in her recollection of Miss Marple's personality carried the day, and she rang up Miss Marple. Oh, Lordy, straight away, explaining that she could not come down to St. Mary Mead as she was at the moment working. but that she was free from 2 to 4 on the following afternoon and could meet Miss Marple anywhere in London. She suggested her own club, a rather nondescript establishment which had the advantage of having several small, dark writing rooms which were usually empty. Miss Marple accepted the suggestions, and on the following day, the meeting took place. I'm so sorry, y'all. Greetings were exchanged. Lucy Islesborough led her guests to the gloomiest of the writing rooms and said, "I'm afraid I'm rather booked up just at present, but perhaps you'll tell me what it is you want me to undertake." "It's very simple, really." "It's very simply, really," said Miss Marple. "Unusual, but simple. I want you to find a body." For a moment the suspicion crossed Lucy's mind that Miss Marple was mentally unhinged, but she rejected the idea. Miss Marple was eminently sane. She meant exactly what she had said. "What kind of baby?" asked Lucy Islesborough with admirable composure. "A woman's body," said Miss Marple. "The body of a woman who was murdered, strangled actually, in a train." Lucy's eyebrows, thank God, I got to say her last name every time. Lucy's eyebrows rose slightly. "Well, that's certainly unusual. Tell me all about it." I'm just going to read her first name anyway from now on. "Well, that's certainly unusual." Wait a minute. "Well, that's certainly unusual. Tell me about it." Miss Marple told her. Lucy listened attentively without interrupting. At the end, she said, "It all depends on what your friend saw or thought she saw." She left the sentence unfinished with a question in it. "Elspeth McGullicuddy doesn't imagine things," said Miss Marple. "That's why I'm relying on what she said. If it had been Dorothy Cartwright, now it would have been quite a different matter. Dorothy always has a good story and quite often believes it herself. There's usually a kind of basis of truth that certainly a kind of basis of truth, but certainly no more. But Elspeth is the kind of woman who finds it very hard to make herself believe that anything at all extraordinary or out of the way could happen. She's most unsuggestible, rather like granite." "I see," said Lucy thoughtfully. "Well, let's accept it all. Where do I come in?" "I was very much impressed by you," said Miss Marple, "and you see I haven't got the physical strength nowadays to get about and do things. You'll want me to make inquiries, that sort of thing, but won't the police have done all that, or do you think they have been just slack?" "Oh, no," said Miss Marple, "they haven't been slack. It's just that I've got a theory about the woman's body. It's got to be somewhere. If it wasn't in the train, then it must have been pushed or thrown out of the train, but it hasn't been discovered anywhere on the line." And surely they looked right after it happened. I don't know. "So I traveled down the same way to see if there was anywhere where the body could have been thrown off the train and yet wouldn't have been found on the line." On the line, and there was. Wait a minute. Been thrown off the train. It wouldn't have been found on the line, and there was, is what it says. The railway line makes a big curve before getting into Brackhampton on the edge of a high embankment. If a body were thrown out there when the train was leaning at an angle, I think it would pitch right down the embankment. But surely it would still have been found even there. Oh, yes, it would have been found. Yeah, hang on. But surely it would have been found even there. Oh, yes, it would have to be taken away, but we'll come to that presently. Here's the place on this map. Lucy bent to study where Miss Marple's fingers pointed. This... shoot. Can't wait to get some new eyeballs. Here's the place on the map. It's right on the outskirts of Brackhampton now, said Miss Marple, but originally it was a country house with extensive park and grounds, and still there, untouched, ringed around now with building estates and small hang on. Still there, untouched, ringed around, small suburban houses. It's called Rutherford Hall. It was built by a man. It was built by a man, small suburban houses. It's called Rutherford Hall. Oh, I just said that. It was built by a man called Krakenthorpe, a very rich manufacturer, in 1884. The original Krakenthorpe's son, an elderly man, is living there still with, I understand, a daughter. The railway encircles quite half of the property. And you want me to do what? Miss Marple replied promptly, I want you to get a post there. Everyone is crying out for efficient domestic help. I should not imagine it would be difficult. No, I don't suppose it would be difficult. I understand that Mr. Krakenthorpe is said locally to be somewhat of a miser. If you accept a low salary, I will make it up. Hang on. Hard. If you accept a low salary, I will make it up to the proper figure, which should, I think, be rather more than the current rate. Because of the difficulty? Not the difficulty so much as the danger. It might, be dangerous. It's only right to warn you of that. I don't know, said Lucy pensively, that the idea of danger would deter me. Oh, it's midnight. I didn't think it would, said Miss Marple. You're not that kind of person. I dare say you thought it might even attract me. I've encountered very little danger in my life, but do you really believe it might be dangerous? Somebody, Miss Marple pointed out, has committed a very successful crime. There has been no hue and cry, no real suspicion. Two elderly ladies have told a rather improbable story. The police have investigated it and found nothing in it. Found nothing in it. So everything is nice and quiet. I don't think that this. So everything is nice and quiet. I don't think that this somebody, whoever he may be, will care. I don't think that will care about the matter being raked up, especially if you're successful. Well, what do I look for exactly? Any signs along the embankment, a scrap of clothing, broken bushes, that kind of thing. Lucy nodded. And then? I shall be quite close at hand, said Miss Marple. An old maidservant of mine, my faithful Florence, lives in Brackhampton. She has looked after her old parents for years. They're now both dead, and she takes in lodgers, all most respectable people. She has arranged for me to have rooms with her. She will look after me most devotedly, and I feel I should like to be close at hand. I would suggest that you mention you have an elderly aunt living in the neighborhood and that you want a post within easy distance of her, and also that you would... monkeys. It's worse and worse. You mentioned you have an elderly living in the neighborhood and that you want a post within an easy distance of her, and also that you stipulate for a reasonable amount of spare time so that you can go and see her. Satin. Wait a minute, that don't make easy. Hang on. Lord have mercy. Where did that word come from? You want to post within an easy distance of her, and also that you stipulate for a reasonable amount of spare time so that you can go and see her often. Satin. Again, Lucy nodded. I was going to Tormina the day after tomorrow, she said. The holiday can wait, but I can only promise 3 weeks. After that, I'm booked up. 3 weeks should be ample, said Miss Marple. If we can't find anything in 3 weeks, we might as well give up the whole thing as a mare's nest. Miss Marple departed, and Lucy, after a moment's reflection, rang up a registry office in Brackhampton, the manageress of which she knew very well. She explained her desire for a post in the neighborhood so as to be near her aunt. After she had turned down, and aunts in quotation marks, after she had turned down with little difficulty and a good deal of ingenuity, several more desirable places. Rutherford Hall was mentioned. Sounds exactly what I want, said Lucy firmly. The registry office rang up Miss Crackenthorpe. Miss Crackenthorpe and Miss rang up Lucy. 2 days later, Lucy left London en route for Rutherford Hall. And then there's part 2. I'm so sorry, y'all. I know that is terrible. Y'all know I can read. I just can't see with the two lines just. And I was putting the bookmark underneath each line. Holy moly. I'm tired. I think it's time to go to bed. Y'all be sweet. Don't be ugly. Love y'all. See you tomorrow. Live at 5. If not before. Hopefully at Dana's in the morning if I wake up in time. If not, y'all know I'm getting some good rest.